The shells are now going into the top half of the crankcase. It's all been cleaned and liberally oiled on the one that goes there. Obviously you've got that keyway which fits in to the keyway just as it did before. That just goes into there, and then these just press into position. There we go. And that's that done. So there's 5 of those in the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll install the crank. And that's the last shelling. Right, now it's time to put the main crank in. Tops into place. The next part is to install primary drive shaft. Meets up there. So I've now replaced this end cap with the new one. The old one looked pretty tired. I've also installed the cam chain. As you can probably see, I actually got around to installing the cam chain. I wasn't happy with the way that the link went on, trying to do it in situ, so I did it on the bench. The actual little link on the end here needs pushing on, and then these little rivets need pairing over. I did that with a punch, so I did that on the bench and just looped it over the end of the crankshaft there, so that's now in position. But the next thing I wanted to show you was how the cam chain adjuster works, because I know a lot of people have had problems with this when they're adjusting it, so I'm just going to whip that back out and show you how it works on the bench. These are the components of the cam chain adjuster, and I was warned about this particular component here. I don't know if you can see that there, but the actual part here has got quite a lot of wear on it, where the chain's been driving into here. Plus this is extremely tight, and that is a big problem. So the new one, which is supplied by David Silver Spares, that's got some brass bushes in it, so that moves really freely. There's a follower here where the blade needs to go in, that's been pressed into place. Took the old one out, and how it effectively works is this plunger comes down and pushes that round on the bike, and that effectively does the chain. It needs to be done while the engine's running, and what happens is this little thing here, it'll be in that way around into the block. The adjustment screws on the back of it, so it's like that, and what happens is that this is under full tension once you've pulled this screw back out, so that tightens it. Even with the engine running, that pushes this component round to tighten it. This fits in there and holds it, and what a lot of people do is they try to screw that in, which is what you don't want to do. You undo it, and that spring forces this plunger down to tighten the chain, and then you screw that back in, and there's a locking nut there to hold it. I'll show you that once it's in position on the engine, but I'm going to install these parts now. So this is the plunger mechanism. As you can see, there's a flat part just there which needs to go, if you like, to the front of the engine so that screw can come down and hold it in place. So that's the first bit that goes in. For lube. This is the part that goes on the back that holds it in place. It comprises of this new seal that I've put in place, 5mm washer, a lock nut. I can't do that amount. A lock nut and the main nut there, and that goes into that part there. I'm pushing it all the way in and holding it in position with that there for now, so that's in its fully compressed position so that I can get the next part on, which is this new component, which appears to be made out of billet aluminium rather than a steel item, and that installs just in there with 2 screws. Okay, so it's time to put the crankcases back together, but first of all I've got to install this bearing here. Put a dab of oil around it, help it ease in. There we go. There it is. And then just insert this clip into position. Right, that clip's now in its groove. Now the next thing to do is to use this blue Hylamar. You can actually use a product called Honda Bond, and I think Yamaha do one called Yamabond, but it's the same stuff. It's a non-solidifying gasket jointing compound. It just really fills up any minor imperfections on the case edge. And I'm just going to put that on now. I'm going to use a latex glove just to smear it on all over those areas where it's going to go, and then put it back together. As soon as I've put that on, I'll come back and show you. Right, so I've made sure I've got these 2 dowels in place here, there and there, and now it's just a case of lifting this crankcase over and popping it into position. Right, it's all down. Make sure absolutely that it's seated properly. Yep, that's all in. All the seals all seem to be in the right place. Good. So now it's just a case of installing all the bolts, and then I'll come back when I start torquing it up. Now there are some bolts with like a number 9 on them which go into the 6 here. They're the main ones that hold the crank in the correct position and the right tension. So that's them. I'm going to get my trusty torque wrench out and get them all bolted up. Now I'm going to tighten down these bearing cap nuts, so they're just finger tight at the moment. Now because the torque wrench has got such a massive amount of leverage, I'm going to tighten it down with the bar first, just till it's tight. I've set the torque wrench to 16 pound-feet, which is the lowest setting recommended. It's 16 up to 18 I think, so I'm going to leave it at 16, just get a feel for it with my bar how tight that is. I'm going to follow the sequence that's in the book, and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully everything's fine. So the first one you do is this one here, which is number 1. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it's squeezing out the blue Hylamar all the way around, which is good. So it's just a case of getting on with that. Right, we're at the stage now where everything feels pretty tight on those, so I'm just going to check it with a torque wrench, and you'll hear a beep as it reaches the correct torque setting. There we go. Okay, so they're all torqued up. That's lovely. That's at the lowest setting, so I'm just going to do what I prefer and just check them for feel, really. Yep. Yep. Yep, they all feel pretty tight from what I can see there. Blue Hylamar squeezed out, that's good all in places. So now it's a case of flipping it over and doing the top ones.